Good afternoon,
Well,
ladies and
morning.
gentlemen. Sorry, let's try that again. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little about my co-host. Do you know, folks, today is National Beach Day, and when my co-host was a young lad, he spent so much time at the beach, I think his folks called him the son of the beach or something like that. He is the he-devil with a sword. He is the Khaleesi of London, and I mean London, England, not the fake London, Ontario. He is Lewis Brackpool. How you doing there, my friend?
Oh, what a fantastic intro! Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I was confused whether I was to lead or not, or you to lead. That was fantastic. You've done a way better job than I could have ever done. Thank you so much for introducing me like that. That was quality. And I was gonna wear actually a Hawaiian shirt today. That's really weird. So that would have been great.
Well, you know, I mean, we don't have to confine it to National Beach Day, Lewis. It is also National Toasted Marshmallow Day, which I guess is an activity you could do on the beach. And
True.
National Grief Awareness Day, which is basically just every day when you're married to Lady Menzoid. Anyway, we should get, before I get into real big trouble, we should get into our ground rules of what we're trying to do. And I see we have a packed Britannia episode, a lot of things happening over in your neck of the woods across the pond. Many subjects. The only thing missing is a On the Buses and Benny Hill retrospective, I would imagine. I don't know if you could make those shows today with all the wokeness and political correctness. But in any event,
No
Lewis,
way.
you want to tell our viewers what it is that we're hopefully trying to do here today?
Absolutely. Well, like you said, we've got a packed show for everyone today. Everything Britannia, Canadian, and COVID related as well. So be sure to stick around for that one because it's going to get spicy. Remember as well, if you probably know the rules already as viewers do, but you can actually interact with me and David today using the Rumble Rants, Super Chats on YouTube. We're obviously live on Odyssey and other platforms too. So send your Super Chats in. Insult me. Don't insult David, please. Of course, and we're going to have a cracking live stream. So, I guess, mate, shall we start with Britannia and what's going on over here?
Absolutely, Lewis. And just to let people know, at some point we do have to speak to some very important COVID topics. And if you're on YouTube, you will, in about a half hour or so, you're not experiencing technical difficulties. We just have to say goodbye. We love YouTube in terms of the reach we get, more than, I think, 1.5 million subscribers, Lewis, right now. We don't like YouTube for the censorious thuggery in which they're engaged. You can't talk about COVID if it goes against the approved narrative. You can't talk about election fraud. Not 2016 election fraud. You can talk about that all you want, but 2020 election fraud in the U.S. You see where I'm getting at? It's a sad state of affairs. So keep in mind, if you lose the feed in a half hour or so, we haven't been hit by lightning here, even though it's raining cats and dogs. We have just shifted over to the likes of Rumble, where they are more free speech friendly. Imagine that. So, Lewis, look at this. A quarter of all Brits, according to a survey, are refusing or will be refusing to turn on the heating this winter. First of all, for a Canadian audience and Canadians who have never been to the UK, how cold does it get there in the wintertime?
Not as cold as Canada, to put it lightly. I think you're looking at sort of maybe 2 degrees, 3 degrees. I think you go into the minuses quite a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, it's not as cold as you guys over there, but we still feel it and we still complain about it because that's the British spirit, of course.
And
yeah,
it would
like
be
you
a
said,
damn cold too, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You being
Got to
an
wrap
island.
up. That's it. Yeah, being an island, isolated from everyone else, apart from France, of course, with the Channel. But yeah, a quarter of Brits will refuse to turn on the heater this winter simply because they cannot afford it. So the article that we're using today is, of course, by Paul Joseph Watson, who wrote, almost a quarter of Brits say they will refuse to turn on the heating this winter because the skyrocketing cost of energy has become unaffordable. The energy price gap is set to rise in October, pushing up bills by 80%, meaning the average yearly household bill will rise from £1,971 to $3,549. So in dollars, that's 2,300 to 4,150. And is it any surprise or any wonder that people are going, do you know what? I'm actually worried about heating my own home this winter. I mean, what's your reaction? I heard that you were quite shocked there, David, by that stark rise. What's it like as well as a homeowner if you were to be given that news that your bills are going to be going up that much? Like, what would be your reaction completely?
Well, first of all, 80% is a staggering number. And when you translate it into the pound amount, I can see why people would be in a financial crunch. It comes down to, I think, especially if you're on a fixed income, Lewis, it's a choice, isn't it? Eat or heat. And some days, I guess, when it gets really cold, you're going to put the heater on and maybe skip a meal, and vice versa. And I think for Britain being a developed nation, a first world nation, for its citizens to be put in that kind of a dilemma is absolutely outrageous. But here's my question to you, Lewis. What is driving this? An 80% spike is off the charts. What are the factors that are contributing to this unbelievable price increase in the UK?
Well, it's a great question. The government are saying it's because of Putin, which, of course, I think is pretty nonsensical. I mean, it can be a factor, especially with the sanctions. The sanctions seem to be hurting the people that are imposing these sanctions since 2014, and now, of course, have accelerated since the war in Ukraine began. And these sanctions are actually hurting us more than Russia itself. I mean, the Russian ruble has increased in strength since the start of the war. It's actually surpassed its strength now, currently. And it seems to me that that we're just continuing this cycle of let's put the responsibility and the blame on others, when actually it's down to incompetence from this own government, this own policy that's being pushing through. And it's not just Britain as well this is occurring. This is across Europe. I think Tucker Carlson done a great segment recently where he spoke about the energy crisis in Europe. But I think he was almost too polite about it. I think, to put it bluntly, I think there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and it's actually a lot more serious than people are making out to be. I mean, my question back to you, David, would be, could you see something like this happening in Canada in the near future? Not to scare anyone.
Inflation is a fact of life. I think we are entering into a recession, although the powers that be are suddenly redefining what a recession is. It used to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And but nowhere are the price increases in the 80 percentile range, at least for home heating. And you're right, it's not just a UK phenomenon, Lewis. I mean, in Germany, they are in for a rough winter, I understand. I mean, and it's not just what's happening in Russia. This is the result of insane virtue signaling green policies where even nuclear reactors have been mothballed in Germany. And when you ask people, there are some on the green movement that are not anti-nuke. They stand up for that, and they put themselves at the mercy of the Russians. And they're going to pay for it. And it's going to be a painful reality check when the weather gets cold. Secondly, Lewis, I think, in the department of there's plenty of blame to go around, if our government wasn't so anti-energy, wasn't so hell-bent on landlocking trillions, yes, trillions with a T, trillions of dollars of energy in Canada, if we had pursued, for example, liquefied natural gas shipments where we could send tankers over to Europe, what a win-win. we would make billions of dollars in sales of this energy, and nobody is turning off the heat in London because energy prices are up by 80%. Because when you flood the market with supply, I mean, it's basic economics 101, the price goes down. You wouldn't be beholden to the oligarchs in Russia. And I think it is absolutely shameful of the Justin Trudeau Liberals that, again, in the name of climate change and greenness and the climate emergency, and my gosh, we got to get on the red line and see if Greta Thunberg will approve this. The fact that we are not doing this, which I said, again, I repeat, win-win, the revenues for the energy sector in Canada and the relief in terms of the bill payments Britons are going to have to pay. There we go. Look at him. Justin Trudeau wants us to move even faster on fighting climate change. Why do I automatically reach for my wallet, Lewis, when I hear nonsense like that? But that's my overall look at this situation. I think this is a problem that does not have to exist. If there was political will, this could be changed to the benefit of both our country and Europe as a whole. What do you think?
I think you're completely correct, and correct me if I'm wrong by saying this. It's almost as if this is just by design now, and I actually sympathise with that viewpoint that it's almost like they're wanting this to happen to, I don't know, build back better. We've heard that one before. So who knows? Who knows what's really going on behind the curtain? And there was another article that I wanted to bring up on screen about the British energy executives warning of potential mass civil unrest over these price gains. And of course, this was by Ian Miles Chong, a writer, of course, at Rebel, and done a fantastic article here. It says one senior industry figure said that when people realize how bad this is going to get, they may take to the streets in unrest. And it says here, energy executives in the United Kingdom have warned of the potential of mass civil unrest as energy bills continue to skyrocket unabated. So and he actually just mentioned as well, the British government is considering COVID-style bailouts for smaller companies facing closure due to surging costs, and that's completely right. They've already spoken about sending more furlough-style payments to small businesses and, of course, households that are struggling too. It's just more bailout. It's like we've voted in the Labour Party all over again. It's unbelievable.
You're so right. And I mean, obviously, we don't want to be advocating violence out there. We're all about peaceful protests, 100%. But, Lewis, I've always said the two most underrated luxuries in life, and overlooked for that matter, is A, a hot shower, and B, getting enough sleep. And you deprive people of those two things long enough, they get angry. And I can see people taking to the streets, maybe just out of necessity in terms of moving around and breaking a sweat, so you're not in a flat shivering under blankets. But that indicates, I think, how serious this is. Let us hope. I don't know what the Farmer's Almanac says for the UK. What are the forecasts? Is this supposed to be an average winter, worse than average, better than average? I know on this side of the pond for summer, they got it completely wrong for these parts. They said it was going to be a predominantly damp and cooler than normal summer. It was hotter, and rain has been very infrequent, to say the least. But what are the forecasts now? Because I think people are going to start to pay attention to that, given this impending 80% increase in home heating fuel.
Yeah, it depends on who you go to, I guess. If you go to a climate eco warrior, you're going to find that they'll give you an answer similar to, well, we're going to be underwater, like Al Gore. But that's not going to be the case, I don't think. The truth be told, I don't 100% know the forecast of what they're saying, but I can make a guess, and my guess is it's going to be a rough one, to put it so bluntly. It's going to be a difficult time not just in the UK, but for a lot of the Western countries, because of what's going on, because of the constant sanctions, because of these climate policies, net zero, this sickening, poverty enacting policy. Is just going to strike across many, many Western countries this coming winter. So no wonder the executives are warning of this sort of thing, which, I hope that it doesn't come to that, obviously.
And Lewis, because it is British energy executives warning of this potential for mass civil unrest over energy prices and energy availability, if you will, I'm just wondering, is there something unspoken here? Are they implying that there's something the government could do to alleviate that? Or are you just, jammed into this situation? There's no way out.
There's a few things that they could do. If you look at things such as fuel pricing and everything like that, a lot of it is taxed. So majority of what you're seeing, take fuel, for example, okay, and filling up your car with petrol. 50%, or I believe it's the accurate number is around 47% of fuel that you put into your car is actually tax. So we could actually be lowering these taxes and lowering this and giving a levy to, of course, consumers in this country, and actually do something about these costs.
Yeah.
But no, it's continuing. It's this continuing cycle of giving more aid to Ukraine, or this foreign aid to Ukraine, which there's talks from whistleblowers that speak about. We don't exactly know where this money is going, but we need to, of course, look into that story before I solidify that claim. There's continuing giving taxpayers money over to Ukraine. There's this continuous cycle of not actually calling out the companies that aren't being totally capped in that sort of respect. I don't know, if I'm totally honest, what is going to happen, and there is so much to talk about in terms of the government actually pulling their finger out and getting things done, but those are a few to name the least.
I think that's a brilliant point you made. 47% of the cost of is that the petrol at the pump is indeed government taxation. So I'm not sure. Well, it's likely it's a similar percentile for home heating oil, gas, electricity, what have you. So why can't the government then, Lewis, say as a temporary measure, we are drastically rolling back the taxes? Just like back before the First World War, as a temporary measure, we're introducing income tax. I guess more than a century later, I guess by geological time, this is still a temporary period, just a century or so. But is that on the table, the idea of giving Britons relief by lowering the tax take?
Well, there's a leadership debate. There's a leadership crisis. There's a crisis for everything over it, to be honest, wherever you look. But we have a leadership crisis, and we're currently in the primaries for two candidates to take over from Boris Johnson after resigning. Two World Economic Forum attendees, of course. So it's a lesser of two evils, in my opinion. But you've got two. One for the net zero styled green policy style Rishi Sunak. You've got Liz Truss, who, well, she wants to have a moratorium. I can't quite say this word. Is it moratorium? Moratorium? How do I say it? Moratorium. Yes. On the green levies, and she wants to actually reduce tax instead of Rishi Sunak's policy is just to keep sustaining it and then give out grants like he did with the furlough scheme, because he was the what's the word? He was the godfather of the furlough scheme over here in the UK. He was the one that went, right, let's get it done, let's get it rolled out. And now we're paying the price for it. It is not the cost of living crisis. I believe it's the cost of lockdown and printing so much damn money crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And then just handing it out like coupons.
Well, and that drives inflation, of course. And but you raised an interesting point. Boris Johnson is now yesterday's man, but if he was able to hang on to his position of power despite the scandals that he got involved with, Lewis, do you think that would be the kind of leader that would be good for Britain at this point, going into a kind of energy crisis, if you will, once winter comes calling?
It's a great question. In my honest opinion, I don't think there is a single person yet in government at the minute who is capable of leading this country out of anything.
Wow.
And that's my own personal opinion. People can debate that all they want, but I have lost so much trust with not only this political party, and it's obviously its opposition. I'm not a fan of anyway, but throughout the board, I don't see anyone competent in order to lead this country out of some form of crisis one way or another. We keep being told promises. We keep being told we need to do this, we need to do that. It's all words. There's no action. It seems to be one blind follow from these leaders, with some other sort of entity that's distracting them and making, I don't know, showing them a case of pearls and them just trying to grasp them instead of actually focusing on what the task at hand is. And that's just genuinely how I feel. I've lost so much trust in this government personally, and just nearly everyone in it. And I know it's very sad to say, but
it is sad. And
Yeah.
Lewis, I mean, the question arises, on your side of the pond, what's happened to the Winston Churchills of the world, the Margaret Thatchers of the world? These were tough, great leaders Winston Churchill's time stood up to Germany successfully when things looked so dark. Margaret Thatcher, along with Ronald Reagan, being one of the architects in tearing down the Iron Curtain and the end of the Soviet Union. The war in Argentina, of course, successful. But what's happened to those caliber of leaders, in the UK?
This is, I think, cotton wool society is the only the only way to sort of look at it. I think it's careerism. It's got nothing. It's to do with party loyalty as opposed to actually wanting to bring new innovative ideas into politics and actually trying to put the people who elected them in the first place first. And I think that's what's terribly important. I think we've kind of forgotten about all that. They've forgotten that we are the ones that helped them get there, because we casted that vote into the ballot box for them to be there in the first place, to make the decisions, to represent people. That's what a democracy is supposed to be, right? But it's almost sort of these careerist politicians have kind of just gone rogue and just gone, well, I have my own ideas. I've got my own way of doing things, and this is my idea on how to fix it. And without consulting or without putting people's priorities first, I mean, take the migrant crisis for a really good example. This has been going on for years and years and years, but it has accelerated rapidly since the start of the pandemic. And it's always been, we're going to do something about it. We're going to do something about it. We're going to do something about it. I've been down the docks so many times, witnessed it with my own eyes. Yep. I shouldn't be standing there reporting about this. I should be reporting on other things, quite frankly. This shouldn't be happening, is what is my point. But these careerist politicians seem to not want to do that. It's all talk. There's no action. And that's kind of the theme that I'm sort of getting at. It seems to be this overarching cycle between all of them. And there's me with Steve Laws as well, talking and having a chat about what we've just seen.
No, and Lewis, you've done great work down the docks. And listen, let's be frank.
Thanks.
It's not as though the UK has a monopoly on weak leaders. Here in Canada, the Justin Trudeau Liberals, appalling. The Joe Biden Democrats, what they are doing to the United States of America. You compare the U.S. today and the average lifestyle of an American in 2022 versus what it was like under the Donald Trump regime, it's night and day. So it's almost as though when it comes to the hard issues, they're taking a pass. There's no political will, and they get obsessed over ridiculous issues like making sure we use the right gender pronouns when we're addressing people of a certain community. It is just shameful, and hopefully there'll be someone coming out of the weeds, to bring Britain back. I think in the U.S., I think it's a given that Donald Trump is going to run again in 2024. It looks like Pierre Poilievre here in Canada is going to be the conservative choice. And maybe, but these are years away. In the meantime, we have to endure misery thanks to weak politicians that just can't do the right thing. And before we go on, we have some more British subjects. But, look at this. We have an ad, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is Mocha's trailer. Let's check it out.
Back up there. Thank you.
We started off this convoy calling it Taking Back Our Freedoms. But our freedoms are nobody's to take away. So we're going to restore everybody's freedoms.
Lots of people came here wanting to only do a day, and the word with all the truckers is they're now staying for many days. Like a lot of people now are planning on days and days in Ottawa. So
we are here to end the mandat.
I am not leaving
till we get what we want.
We're not going to give up.
I'm on lunch. I could be on lunch a long, long time.
My choice, especially the choice for my child. My body, Trudeau.
Well, I can't wait for that, Lewis. Mocha is so talented. I know it's going to be a fantastic documentary. My goodness, doesn't that speak to what we were speaking to earlier on, the way it began with Tamara Leach, a grandmother being led away in handcuffs for what? Being part of a peaceful protest. That speaks to the weakness and the virtue signaling of the current Justin Trudeau Liberals. And I got to tell you, what a event that was. I think I spent almost 3 weeks covering that protest along with others on the team like Alexa Lavoie, Lincoln Jay, of course. And it was absolutely frigid. I like to think I can endure the cold, and I can, but when you're just standing there, Lewis, and you're terrified to leave because maybe the mounted unit is going to come in and trample some people or what have you, just standing there makes the weather really take a toll. And for some reason in Ottawa during, from late January to February, every time the weekend rolled around, it just got exponentially colder. But look at that. That is something. Look at these images, folks. I think this is a once-in-a-generation, a once-in-a-lifetime image of downtown Ottawa, because the powers that be are never, ever going to allow that to happen. And there's proof in the pudding. In April, Rolling Thunder wanted to come in. It wasn't a protest or a demonstration. It was to honor the war veterans, and it was these motorcyclists, many of them vets themselves, Lewis, that just wanted to do a few victory laps around the cenotaph, and the vast majority of them were blocked from getting into downtown. Absolutely disgraceful. But if you're a Marxist organization like Black Lives Matter, then even the police will take a knee. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Blackface himself, will take a knee. And I never quite got that. You are the Prime Minister. You're taking a knee against yourself? I mean, like, what the... So... lots of hypocrisy there. But before we get to more topics, there he is. Look at that. Oh, look at the virtue signaling. My goodness. And the only thing going through his mind right at that moment is, did they get enough footage yet? Should I just hang around another 20 seconds? Did they get my good side? Oh, for goodness sakes. Get back in your office.
Poser.
Lewis, I believe we have some super chats, so let's see what we have.
Let's have a little look, shall we? What's the first one we got here then? So, Adam Ottawa donates $1. I've been changing my spending habits based on wokeness. My first target is it Unilever?
Yep.
Who owns Dove. Unfortunately for me, that also means cutting my favourite Hellman's mayo, Lewis. They also own Marmite. To be fair, I do like mayo. To be fair, I'm one of those sort of guys. Marmite, sort of an acquired taste, more Australian that, like Vegemite and things like that.
Well, Lewis, forgive my ignorance. I don't know what Unilever has done to make Adam Ottawa engage in that boycott. So if he wants to write back again, and I forgive my ignorance on this, but you know what? Adam Ottawa raises a good point. I am starting to be very careful where I spend my money. And sometimes it's almost like, biting off your nose to spite your face. I'll give you an example. Gillette, with their wokeness, right, with running ad campaigns that are anti-male, running an ad campaign about a father beaming with pride that his daughter is now a son, going through the transgenderism, and they're going to have their first shave together. There you go. Thank goodness they confined it to just the face, and there was no Brazilian element of that, because I scare easy, Lewis. Let me tell you. But here's the problem. Full disclosure: Gillette makes outstanding products. I have to admit, I love their razors. And the problem is, Lewis, is that when my supply runs out and I got to seek a replacement to Gillette, it might mean me taking a step down. But I think it's important. I think, these corporations, if there's one thing that gets their attention, it's not protests and letters to the editor and all that sort of thing. It is the bottom line. And if sales start to plummet because we're not buying what they're selling anymore, at least in terms of ideology versus products, I think that gets their attention. So, by the way, if anyone out there knows of a excellent non-woke blade replacement for Gillette, I'm all ears.
Fair play. No, I understand that sentiment completely. Do we have? We've got some more chats, don't we? Cool. Let's have a little look. Let's see the next one. King7734, $1. Lewis, I'm glad you're back and okay, especially after digesting all the food prepared in the Dutch.
Oh boy, there's a punchline just dangling over home plate on that one, but I dare not say it.
There is. Yeah, I know. I think this is full of puns, this episode.
I love our viewers.
I
They're
love
so
the
witty.
Dutch food. It's so good. It's so good. And I love the food over in the Netherlands. I miss the Netherlands. I think it's a fantastic place, but I'm equally kind of glad to be back because, the Netherlands is such a beautiful place. Do we have any more?
Yes.
Here we go. Adam Ottawa, $1 again. Canada's Freeland sure isn't as tough as the UK's Thatcher. What a contrast.
Oh, how true.
Very true.
And the idea that, harsh language, harsh questioning is a form of violence against women. It's being called out right across the board, Lewis. And I think it was our boss, Ezra Levant, put out a tweet. Like, where was all this concern when there was, real violence against rebel news reporters? Alexa Lavoie getting shot in the thigh by a canister. And thank God it was her thigh, not her head, because we might be speaking of Alexa in the past tense had that been the case. Sheila Gunn Reid at a feminist rally in Edmonton getting punched in the face by some worm of a man, Dion Buse. Myself, Justin Trudeau sicking his Royal Canadian Mounted Henchman on me back in December, roughing me up, giving me COVID. That's okay. Nothing to see here. But Chrystia Freeland has her sensibilities offended by impolite statements, and it's a cause celeb. Give me a break, Lewis.
It's cotton wool society, like I said, mate. This is the downfall of it all. From what's that fourth turning saying where it's weak men create bad times, bad times create strong men create good times create weak men, and it's a cycle. I think we're in the weak, the weak and the bad times. I think so. Hopefully we'll get some strong ones come out.
You know what? That's a great point. And the question arises again, Lewis, is that when does this pendulum start to swing back the other way? The Democracy Fund had a fantastic event at Canada Christian College in Whitby on Sunday. I attended it. It was about radical transgenderism and how it's affecting biological women in sports, and even more importantly, in prisons, where in this country, Lewis, you just have to say, I'm a female and a 100% biological male with no hormones, no surgery, is admitted to a women's penitentiary. And can you imagine, get a load of this, the number of males identifying as female to get into a women's penitentiary, Lewis, 50%, over 50% of them are, guess what? Sex offenders. And you compare that, by the way, if you look at the female penitentiaries, folks, less than 2% of female inmates are sex offenders. So, isn't it amazing how the authorities haven't figured it out that maybe a male sex offender wants to get into a captive situation with biological females to, rape them, maybe sexually assault them, which is happening. And it is an absolute travesty. And, the philosophy seems to be, and it's been stated on the left, that when it comes to fairness, when it comes to safety, inclusion is more important than fairness, right? And that's whether we're talking female penitentiaries or biological males competing against females and, just whipping their arses in competition because they have an inherent advantage. I think I think we're almost at a tipping point. And I think when you see the likes of Aaliyah Thomas, 100% male going up against biological females and slaughtering them in the pool, I get the sense we might just see the pendulum about to swing back the other way. It is just getting that revolting. What do you think, Lewis?
I think when you have an ideology that promotes the idea of words being violent, so taking away the idea of criticism and teaching young people that the idea of criticizing or being mean or saying something hurtful is considered violent, that takes away obviously a big responsibility on not only other people but yourself, and the responsibility between actually understanding reality. So if you keep teaching young people these sorts of strange types of ideologies, you're never going to get criticism. And then when people start to criticize and push back, you immediately say it's a crime or it's awful, but it's to a point where the law can be involved. This is what's happening in the UK as well. David, do you know much about non-crime hate incidences? Have you heard of that phrase before?
Is this involving the number of police officers in the UK that are monitoring social media and typically showing up at 4 a.m. To rouse someone out of bed? They've committed a thought crime. I mean, my goodness, Lewis, it truly is 1984 coming to life. If only George Orwell were alive today, I would love to see what his opinion is in terms of his book becoming a template for society as opposed to a cautionary tale. But I digress. We have more chats, I do believe.
Cool. Let's have a look. Frasbo, $1. I'm boycotting Tim Hortons Canadian Tire.
Oh, okay, Frasbo. Could you explain that? I understand the Tim Hortons boycott. That would be Tamara Ugolini had a fantastic piece on how they were excluding non-vax kids from their camps, and that would make me drop Tim's coffee. And again, it's my Gillette problem, Lewis. I love Tim Hortons coffee, but McDonald's is just as good on this side of the pond, so that's where I'm buying my Java. But Canadian Tire, are you talking about Tim Hortons located in Canadian Tire, or has Canadian Tire done something egregious on the woke file? Because recently I've seen Canadian Tire do good things like around December in their marketing materials, they use the phrase, I believe, Canada's official Christmas store. And it's like, my God, they use the C word, Christmas? Don't you mean holiday? So I applaud Canadian Tire for that, but maybe they've done something else. So please educate me if I've missed that. That's the thing too, Lewis. There's so many things happening that it's actually hard to keep track, of all these, weird wokeism decisions, because we have a problem which I call corporatism, which is corporations. They don't even believe this either. They are just bending the knee because their thought is, if we bend the knee to the radicalized mob, they'll leave us alone and they'll pick another target, hopefully one of our competitors. But you know what? It's never enough. These people are never grateful. They always want more. It is a horrible strategy to go down, and hopefully the pendulum will swing back by brave CEOs and emboldened boards of directors, But right now, it is so sad to see Fortune 500 companies go down that route as well. Do we have some more chats there, Lewis?
Let's have a look. We're going to go on to the Trudeau topic.
Oh,
so you get to this is going to be, you're going to be in your element here, David. Chatting about Trudeau's residents spent $12,000 on groceries, boutique goods in 1 month. Do you want to take us through that one?
It's incredible. I don't really begrudge anyone spending their money on whatever they want to spend. If I ever win the lottery, I've stated before, Lewis, there's a company in Indiana called Fiberglass Freaks, and they make Batmobile replicas. It's $300,000 US, but I'm going to buy one, okay? But for now, that remains a dream. The difference is with Justin Trudeau, he is on the taxpayer teat, and he's been involved in many scandals where it would seem, allegedly, that he and his family are benefiting from the likes of the We charity, for example. So I resent that because it's not his money, it's our money.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That doesn't make sense. Like, what? Like I said, careerist politicians just going rogue.
Yep.
It's just the norm now. And we're seeing that everywhere, even in the highest positions of government. And I don't know. There's another video, apparently, to react to where Tucker Carlson mocks Justin Trudeau for his, is it two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, plus virtue signaling. Yes, I do know the acronym because I've been forced to learn it over here from all the adverts and for everything across UK media, so apology.
Believe it or not, that is an abbreviated one. A couple of years ago, I think it was the Ontario Elementary Teachers Federation, the union, they were having a conference, and the initial gram they used, Lewis, and I can't possibly remember it, but I do remember one thing about it. It was 28 letters long. 28 letters, right? We don't want to exclude any spirit unicorns out there, after all. They have feelings too. So the always brilliant Tucker Carlson was weighing in on this. Let's check it out.
Let's have a look.
They were so proud of, well, it's completely falling apart, along with a lot of other things in that country. Emergency rooms closing all over Canada. One emergency room physician in Toronto just told the Globe and News that Canada's healthcare system, quote, has already collapsed. And it's not the only thing that's collapsing. The Canadian economy is in deep trouble. 1 in 5 Canadians now report going hungry because of inflation. Thankfully, they've got Justin Trudeau on the scene, and he's got a plan. He announced just the other day he's going to deal with Canada's biggest problem, and that, of course, is Two-Spirit Eskimos. They're facing a lot of discrimination. And to rectify that, Trudeau announced that Canada will invest $100 million in a, quote, historic action plan for something called, and we're quoting, the 2SLGBTQI plus communities. Those communities are hurting, not that Justin Trudeau can identify who they are exactly. Here's part of his announcement.
Since day one, our government has been committed to protecting the rights of two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and additional sexuality and gender diverse people.
Oh my God.
Remember when liberals used to say, we don't care about your sex lives, we don't care who you sleep with? You kind of never imagined when they were saying that they'd be awarding tax dollars to people on the basis of who they sleep with. Really? We should also note that Justin Trudeau spelled out all of those words. The acronym LGBTQ plus has given him some trouble before because, like everyone else on planet Earth, he has no freaking idea what it means. Here he was in September.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2 plus kids' rights.
You can imagine him practicing in the mirror. But no one told him what the letters stand for because, again, nobody knows. And the acronym has since grown. It's now 2SLGBTQI plus. And if you don't know it, you're a bigot because they're getting $100 million for some reason, even though we can't identify them and no one knows what a two-spirit is, but shut up.
You know, Lewis, I see you laughing, but
him,
this is a very serious issue when it comes to two-spirited Eskimos. And right now, I want to let you know I'm identifying as an asexual, gender-fluid spirit unicorn. But ask me in 5 minutes, I'm going to be a Westinghouse toaster, I do believe. Poor Tucker, he doesn't realize that Eskimos is under the ban here. We had a famous CFL team, the Edmonton Eskimos, over a century they were called that. People in the Eskimo community, which is now called the Inuit community, had no problem with that. And they had to change their names, much like the Cleveland Indians and the Washington Redskins. They're now the Edmonton Elks, and their logo is now something that looks like a stick that fell from a tree. But it is astonishing. I always go back to, I think it was 2017, and it was Stephen LeDrew, who used to be the president of the Liberal Party of Canada, and he was a Bell Media personality. And he went on Tucker Carlson's show to argue that we do indeed have free speech. And he was talking about that 28-letter-long acronym that the teachers union was saying. And Tucker Carlson, it wasn't a setup. He was just, innocently asking, well, Mr. LeDrew, what does this mean? Two-spirited. And LeDrew's answer, Lewis, was, well, Tucker, that's somebody who's clearly confused. They don't know if they're fish or fowl, frick or frack. Well, it was a nice career while it lasted, LeDrew, because he was fired from Bell Media, and his presence there was to defend that we have freedom of speech in Canada. But once the Alphabet City community got wind of that, confused, fish or fowl, frick or frack, Stephen LeDrew. Anyways, what do you make of that? What do you make of this nonsense? As Rome burns, it's like Nero fiddling, as far as I'm concerned, Lewis.
Well, you're right when you say it is a serious issue. It's a serious issue because I'm not allowed to mock or take the mick or criticize this. Otherwise, I will have police officers turn up to my door to check my thinking. So I have to abstain from actually giving my full throttled view over here in Old Blighty. So unfortunately, all I can say You're damn straight. It's absolutely insane, and something needs to be done.
You know, you might have just committed a UK thought crime by saying damn straight being another name for heterosexual. And that was very non-inclusive of you, Mr. Brackpool.
It was. Do you know what? I'm going rogue like the politicians. So we're going for it.
Unbelievable.
Feel free to pay me a visit, the West Sussex Police, if you'd like to, of course, make a complaint. Come and chat to me directly. I don't mind. It will make great content.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, if push comes to shove, just say you identify as female and you'll get into a women's penitentiary and, you know, maybe you'll meet a new pen pal or something. You know, folks, before I get into more trouble, we have another ad break. Let's check it out.
Well, the remains of 215 children have been found in a mass grave in Canada.
Many of you know that just over a year ago, the discovery of the remains of 215 children was found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School at the Tecumseh First Nation. But what if I were to show you that what I just said wasn't true, and that in fact, a year later, not a single body has been found?
This mass grave is a painful reminder of the genocide.
Canada's leaders aren't condemning the burning of churches. No, they're endorsing the burning of churches.
A juvenile rib bone that surfaced in the same area.
You'd be surprised the number of people who say, you know, I'm a doctor, I'm a paramedic. This is definitely a human bone, and it's definitely not.
Looks like the chief.
It is.
Could be you.
Well, talk about a politically incorrect documentary. That is going to be a must-watch video. It's going to ruffle many feathers, Lewis. But, you know, and before anyone accuses us of a false narrative or white supremacy or what have you, Drea Humphrey is obviously a black lady and with Indigenous heritage as well. So there's really nothing about Drea that would motivate her to skewer the facts. So she is reporting the reality. You will not see it anywhere else. And can't wait for that one either, Lewis. But you know what? Before we run out of time, and I'm not sure, maybe super producer Mrs. Olivia will tell me if we have to get off YouTube, because we must talk about the Western University students protesting against COVID. And is this? Oh, we are okay. Oh, you know.
Oh, we okay.
It's Christmas in August. YouTube will let us talk about the University Western protest. But, cool. As I alluded to in the introduction, we have a London here, the fake London or Little London. I don't know what you want to call it. But that is the home for Western University. And they just announced last week, with just days to go before school reopens, that you have to be vaccinated, you have to wear masks, you have to have the COVID booster vaccine, as a matter of fact. And this has thrown the lives of many students into turmoil. They have a date, I believe it might be September, might be the day after Labor Day, I believe, in which they can ask for a refund. But it's a very short window. But the problem is, I mean, if you're committed to moving there, you're committed to a course there, it's not like you can change lanes in a heartbeat and go to another academic university. I think it's egregious, Lewis, that certain institutions are saying we're doing this for safety when others are not. But where I put the blame wholeheartedly is the Doug Ford administration here in Ontario. He's the premier. He could have said, and this would not be a problem if he showed some bravery, these mandates are over and done with, as in forever until we bring them back, which I predict will be flu season. But the point is, he's saying, well, we're ending them, but, you know, if an institution, if a private business, if a mall wants to do it, well, you know, what can we do? What can we do? you're the government. You can say this will not stand, and he won't do that.
Yeah.
Why is this allegedly conservative premier acting like this, Lewis?
Well, the outcome of this, I must say, before I get into that, I mean, we've spoken a lot about careerist politicians, so, you know, it's kind of pretty obvious in that aspect. But the outcome of this, I think, will, if you are on the fence about what's going on in regards to the mandates, in regards to lockdowns, in regards to all of what's happening, okay, that I can't quite say on YouTube, but this is going to take you off the fence for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're talking booster shots now. And, you know, I want to ask certain questions like what constitutes as fully someone who has one of these shots. So I guess the question is, what will the outcome be? Okay. And the outcome I predict to be a lot of people, as we're already seeing there with the protests, a lot of people are going to get absolutely sick and tired of it. And it's going to wake up so many more people to the reality that there is something going on. I'm being so careful with my words, David, because you know, there's so much I could say. There is so much I could say, but I'm sure the viewers can work it out. There's Lincoln J there, of course, doing his thing. And yeah, there is going to be so many people going, there's something strange about that. And if there are still people sitting on the fence, all you need to say is, that's a bit weird, isn't it? You know, mandating a booster shot to get into university, even though they've already been jabbed. That's a bit weird, don't
Lewis,
you think?
I think you're right. I think you're right. But it all comes down to numbers. And you saw everybody at that protest, of course, they're on side. They want it taken away. I'd be most interested when classes resume and the student body is back at Western. I think we should do streeters and find out how many students are saying, you know, I'm committed to my course. That's the only reason I got vaxxed, you know, or what have you. Versus those that are saying, I wholeheartedly agree with the administration. Safety first. We're following the science, even though this is weird science or political science. And I'm saying that, Lewis, because right now, when I walk about, when I'm cycling, which is my form of exercise, which makes certain that I'm fat as opposed to circus fat, I see people who are young, they are healthy, and they're either jogging or riding a bicycle themselves, and they're wearing a mask. And, you know, I can't even contemplate going on a 40K ride with my mouth masked up in one of these face diapers. And the thing is, Lewis, I think we're in an environment, if you will, where it's not about medicine or science or safety anymore. But when I see a young, healthy person wearing a mask, this is a political statement. You know, as much as, you know, Ezra mentioned this himself, it's like a Muslim lady wearing a hijab, or a Sikh gentleman wearing a turban, or a Christian wearing a cross. This is a sign that's saying I'm on Team Islam, Team Sikhism, Team Christianity. The mask is a symbol that says, I'm pro-big government, I'm pro-big lockdowns, I'm pro-shutting down the economy. And what is baffling to me, if we go back, you know, 50 or 60 years ago, you saw students on campus protesting against the Vietnam War, for example, for civil rights, when there was true disparities when it came to civil rights in North America. And now the same rebels on campus, they are the compliant sheep. It's like, you know, big government and big bureaucracy know what to do for my personal safety. Again, it goes back to what we talked about, indoctrination, Lewis. You know, that so much of that rebellious spirit has been snuffed out. I think it's so sad and maddening to see it. And like I said, we must follow this up with a streeter regarding the entire student body and see where they weigh in on this.
Oh, I completely agree. I think I don't think there's anything extra to say, David. I think we've absolutely covered it all there.
Well, there you go. Sorry to monopolize the chatting time, but now, but I got to give you a chance to make up for it because we before we sign off, even though it's after 1 p.m. here in the colonies, as you call them, we do have some chats that we have to get to. So take it away, Mr. Brackpool.
Let's do it. What have we got here? So Frasbo donates 5. So thank you very, very much. To paraphrase a great British leader, this is not the end of mandates, but it may be the beginning of the end of mandates. Well, there you go. To paraphrase a British leader there, which I'm fully backing that. Nice little homage.
You know, Lewis, I would like to think that's true. My spidey senses, even though I was never bitten by a radioactive spider and I don't have spidey senses or the strength of 25 men or the ability to adhere to a wall. You know, that's what I hate about real life versus the comic book universe, Lewis. A radioactive spider gives Peter Parker superhuman powers. If I were to get bitten by a radioactive spider, I'd probably get cancer and die painfully. Anyway, where I was going with this, my intuition, if you will, is that these lockdown mandates are coming back, and if I were a betting man, I would say flu season, when people are more indoors, when the sniffles start, when people are getting colds and influenza. That will be the excuse, and I can just see Doug Ford right now doing the, you know, folks, if it was up to me, I wouldn't. It is up to you. You don't have to do this. Will you stop that dumb preamble? You know, but I think they are just waiting on an excuse. I thought maybe it was going to be monkeypox, but now it might be just something as common as the flu season in which the mandates are coming back. What do you say, Lewis?
Yeah, there's already talk of potential mandates as well over here in the UK. NHS bosses are warning or telling people or telling other executive bodies to say, we need COVID measures once again to cope with the winter. And it's just like, how much more damage do you want to do to people's lives? Like, how much more? We're only at the tip of the icebergs. In regards to lockdowns. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw. I don't know if it's worth bringing this up just briefly, but the Telegraph actually posted this saying, "Bravo to the lockdown skeptics who were smeared and dismissed for daring to defend freedom." That was the Telegraph writing that. And this was the same outlet that smeared everyone for saying that you know, being anti-lockdown or being a skeptic of the nonsense that is occurring, that means, you know, you're the devil, you're killing granny, you're doing whatever, by even thinking that. Now it's the great resist and the great backtrack is what I'm going to call it.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah,
it's so true, Lewis. So many things that just 2.5 years ago were probably rightfully labeled as conspiracy theories have come true in the last 2.5 years. And you
know what? I'm so open now to the idea of shape-shifting lizards, more now than ever before.
Well,
in case.
you keep that shape-shifting lizard of yours tied down, will you? We're running a family show. Anyways, I think we have another comment.
That was, of course, a joke, YouTube. Times have said, never get my ballot for CPC leadership race. Called, wrote, ignored. I'm not the only one. Check Twitter, fool me once. Thank you to you both. Appreciate you and Rebel. There we have it.
Well, you know what? If I can ask you to reach out on our tips line, maybe this is something worth pursuing, because I don't like the idea you're being ignored. This is very important. This is deciding the future leader of the Conservative Party, perhaps, and I'm betting on it, the future Prime Minister whenever that next federal election is called. So your voice counts big time, and September 10th is the leadership convention. That's only, 11 days away? So please reach out and give us the details and contact info, and we'll see what we can do.
There we have it. Is there any more? There we go. AMT60 donated $1. Thank you very much. I recently got a new LOC from CIBC and complained about how high interest rates and how bad of a PM Justin Trudeau is. I saw the Rebel video of a customer who got fired by, is it Scotia, for CO, of their Rainbow app. Cancelled.
This was amazing. This was an interview I did on Friday's Ezra Levent show, in which I was guest hosting, Lewis. And basically, this gentleman in Grand Prairie, Alberta, he was saying, look, is there any way to get this rainbow icon off my phone? I mean, you know, it's not Gay Pride Month anymore, and, you know, I just don't want it. And just for calmly asking this, he was canceled by his bank. The bank, the assistant bank manager said you have until, I think it was like 5 days to close down all your accounts. This is a good customer of 10 years, had a mortgage with the bank. And basically there he is, Gary Duke is the gentleman's name. And just for having a contrarian opinion to the rainbow agenda, he was fired by his bank. Now, the assistant manager, I reached out to him. He says you have to go through corporate communications. And corporate communications, the lady there, can't remember her name, but went by the gender pronouns she, her. So you know what side of the equation she's on. Said, one, we can't speak about private matters. And two, Scotiabank is all about an environment of inclusivity. Yeah, unless you have a divergent opinion, then we're all about exclusivity. But here are banks, and forget about the rainbow issue might be small potatoes, Lewis, but look what happened with the Freedom Convoy in February, where you had Canadians who made small donations having their bank accounts frozen. Yeah. Look what happened to Rebel News in December, when we were going to purchase a property and the mortgage was going to be by the Royal Bank of Canada. Everything added up. Our credit rating absolutely 5 stars, rock solid. And we had a bank employee admit that for political reasons, whatever those might be, the Royal Bank will not be doing business with us. And it's very worrisome, because the big banks in Canada, it's essentially an oligopoly. There are 5, maybe 6 big players if you include the National Bank. And the idea that they can, weaponize banking against the common citizen and share the information, much like casinos in Las Vegas, they share information amongst themselves about cheaters, about card counters, so that you are economically devastated because, for example, you can't get a mortgage, you can't get a line of credit. This is despicable. They should be about banking, and they shouldn't be about thought policing.
I agree. And this is why a cashless society and what we are moving towards is incredibly dangerous.
100%.
And should be resisted at all costs.
Totally agree.
In my opinion.
If only I understood how Bitcoin and the like worked. The more I read about it, the more.
Do you know, I'm still trying to work that one out as well. You're not the only one, David. Even a millennial over here still can't figure it out. So you're not alone there, mate. Adam Ottawa once again. Dove, Unilever, is riding the body shaming and mental health wave.
Okay.
Okay. That was the. There you go. That was the reason why.
I'll look into that. And I guess, we're not supposed to be body shaming. So, when the next issue of Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition comes out, you see some characters in there that they just happen to be walking on the beach while the film shoot was going because, no, this is the new beauty standard. And anyways, I digress. Is there anything more?
I think that covers. I think that covers for my my warrant later on, David, from Thought Police. I think we've hit everything in this video. Frasbo says, "I'm boycotting Tim Hortons Canadian Tire." I think we've done that. I think so.
I'm
pretty sure we've read that one out. Here we go. Kenzie67. Here we go. Trudeau said at ceremony yesterday that Indigenous people are in fact superior to the rest of us. Anti-racism at its finest. I didn't know that. I didn't know he said that.
Wow. I missed that. I'm going to look into that. It doesn't surprise me. But, you know, for a prime minister who has himself said he wore blackface so many times he doesn't know what the accurate number is, for him to be taking the moral high ground on racism, Lewis, this is baffling to me. I mean, it's the same deal when he takes the moral high ground to sexism. This is the same prime minister that groped Rose Knight out in British Columbia. I mean, it's to me, this is like an emperor has no clothes kind of thing. What do you say, my friend?
I mean, there's nothing more to add. I think you're completely right. I think how can you go on about racism when you, in fact, have been a perpetrator of divisiveness when it comes to race, just even by trying to cosplay. It's just absolutely awful.
Yes.
It's terrible. And, you know, a bad example of someone that wants to go on this anti-racism rant by being racist. It just doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive. It's just, it doesn't make sense.
By the way, do they have cosplay events in the UK? They had Fan Expo here in Toronto at the Convention Centre, and I drove by Front Street, and I saw some really, really big Khaleesi's, if you know what I'm talking about. But in the UK, do they have those kind of Comic-Con events?
Yeah, they do. I think we host a few in London, I believe.
Okay.
But I've never been to one. I've never been to one, no.
If you had to go, who would you dress up as, Lewis Brackpool? Give our audience some insight into your alter ego.
Oh gosh. Who would I dress up as? I think maybe I'd dress up as Trump, just so that I know that I'd be safe politically, but also it would be a good laugh, because be like an homage, but I wouldn't make it like bad, if that makes sense. I'd make it like cool MAGA. Do you know what I mean?
What a great idea, you know. And
oh, there it is.
With some highlights
Day 4
now.
Of Fan Expo. There you go. Yeah, never been to those sort of things. Maybe I should try it just once. I mean, it would be an interesting one for sure. Get someone dressed up so weirdly and then asking them funny questions. That would be great.
Well, I did cover the competitor rather to Fan Expo. That was Enemy North Toronto, because they had a crazy COVID policy in place. Even if you were wearing a mask, you still had to wear another mask, and they were doing like the police spot checking. They were lifting people's masks to make sure you had the other fabric mask on. Completely ridiculous. And I went as Robin, Batman's sidekick. I can lend you that costume.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen. Yeah, I have seen that costume.
And I got to tell you, that is what you'll never be lost at sea with that. I mean, yellow cape, red tunic, green short shorts. Oh, say it loud. Say it proud, Boy Wonder. Anyway, do we have any more?
Funny. It's been an interesting time, David. For a first-time live stream with you, it's been great. AMT60, $1. David, McDonald's won't allow unvaxxed sick kids or parents to stay at their Ronald houses. If I win a big lottery, I'm leaving Canada for a more free country. What about you and Mrs. Menzies?
Well, AMT60, I think you might be tapping our phones, because Lady Menzoid and I just had a conversation this weekend. She brought it up. She's researching how we move to Costa Rica, where several other Canadians have gone. They're tired of the tyranny here. And so I don't know what's involved in moving to Costa Rica. I think it's too soon. I don't think I'm ready to be put out to pasture quite yet. Although, then again, I've got to check what Ezra's opinion is on that. But voluntarily, I'd like to stay around. You know, and for another reason, I want to see this play out. I'm very hopeful that, and maybe I'm being naive, but I'm very hopeful that if we have a conservative government under Pierre Poilievre, we will see some changes that makes our lives more tolerable. But right now, Lady Menzoid, she's got Costa Rica on the mind. Although I don't like the fact, and they even sells T-shirts to this effect, Lewis. Costa Rica does not have an army, an air force, or a navy, which makes me think even Canada, even we might be able to take them if that's the case. So make them the 11th province, right? I don't know. Anyways. Okay, is that it then, Olivia? Oh, one more.
Oh, here we go. One more. Frasbo says, I was in a Canadian tyre store in Hamilton shopping without a mask. They made such a fuss. They can go to H.
I can only imagine what that H stands for. Frasbo, on a future show, tell us when that happened. Was it before, I think it was March 21st, when the mandates for masking were rolled back? Because if it was during, the mandate, then the store had, I guess, a semi-legitimate complaint to be made. But if it's after that date, then that is egregious. That is outrageous. There is no more regulation for putting a face diaper on. So please inform us of that at a future show. Well, Lewis, I got to tell you, it was a joy hosting the live stream for the first time with you. You know, Lewis, they say you always remember your first time. I'll definitely remember today.
I'm off to fill out my police statement now, actually, for the thought crimes that we've committed for the entire stream.
Well, blame it on me. Maybe I'll have a UK constable come to my house like the constable from Peterborough came to my house to serve me with a summons a year ago. But in any event, I want to thank everyone behind the boards, Olivia and Efron. I want to thank all our viewers, especially those viewers that made a financial contribution. That's how we keep the lights on. There'll be 2 more Rebels here tomorrow to bring to you the live stream. And in the meantime, folks, as always, stay sane.
Hello everyone, William Diaz here with Rebel News. On the night of Wednesday, August 25th, a group called the United People of Canada was said to possibly be evicted by a bailiff at midnight, according to my source close to the group. The details surrounding its potential eviction are very vague and unclear, as the media and Tupac give 2 different versions of the same story. The group claims they have an active lease on the property, signed, and also say the landlord refuses to accept payments despite having signed a lease.
Quick question, I just have a question.